Okay, in this video we're going to talk about the brake system woes of my Vanagon. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, when I went to go pick up the vehicle, it would not hold brake pressure on the pedal. I'd pump it up a couple of times. It might hold for a moment and then it'd go right back to the floor. So certainly wasn't in driving condition. That's the reason why we had to trailer it back home. As you can see, I've already pulled off the housing over the instrument cluster, and that little guy right there, that is the brake fluid reservoir that sits on top of the brake master cylinder. So yeah, it's not under a hood or anywhere else like it is on most vehicles. Now I went through and I tried to bleed the system because I thought it felt like it had air in the lines, and when I first started to bleed the system, what came out wasn't coffee ground brown fluid. It was almost as black as that cap right there on top of the reservoir, and that leads me to believe that seals and maybe some of the rubber brake lines may have perished while it was sitting. Even though I tried to flush it and I went through an entire can of brake fluid, it will not hold pressure. Now, somebody made mention too, as a test, is to take a look at the brake reservoir here, and when you press the brake pedal, you might see a rise in brake fluid inside of it. So you'll probably hear the squeak of the pedal in the background, and I'm going to do this while holding the phone and taking video. You can see it's kind of shaking a little bit, but there is ever so slightly a change in fluid as I'm pushing and releasing the brake pedal. So somebody made mention that's probably the seals inside of the master cylinder that's allowing fluid to come back up into it, and if that's the case, then it's not going to hold pressure. So anyway, I've got a new brake master cylinder that is on its way, and in order to replace that, the instrument cluster has to come out, and I'll have a video of that when the time comes. But new master cylinder, new rubber grommets, new brake sensors on the master cylinder, because I found out too that the brake lights on the rear don't work. So that's it. I'll show a video here in a few moments of the brake fluid that came out, and just give you an idea of what was happening inside of the system. Okay, so here's a shot of the brake fluid that came out of the Vanagon when I started bleeding the brakes. This looks actually a little bit lighter than what was originally coming out. Obviously this thing has been sitting for a long time, and I don't have any records within the last 30,000 miles that the brake fluid has been flushed. When it first came out, quite honestly, just to give you an example, it looked almost as black as this cap. So with flushing a whole container, and this is what I used here, Stop 4LV, this is what I had locally. But I have used the entire can of it to flush the system, and it still won't hold pressure.